So all this talk about public domain in the recent videos I've made, it would be a missed opportunity to not go over some of the big ones that just made that transition going into 2024. So welcome to my channel, KC, that's me, Carry Chug the Sludge Storyteller. I love talking about storytelling as an art form, its many mediums, and its history. But here, intrigued, enjoying this video, then like, subscribe, and click the notification bell. Thank you. So, 2024 marks the point where all works of media that came out in 1928 fall into public domain. And I decided I'd have a little fun going into depth on a few of them. Alright, so we'll start with the one that's getting all the buzz out there. This was Walt Disney's introduction of his immortal mascot, Mickey Mouse, to the world. It's widely considered to be superbly innovative. The Fleischer Brothers cartoon, My Old Kentucky Home, is known to be the first cartoon with synchronized sound in 1926, but the comparison between it and Steamboat Willie is like looking between the 1989 movie The Abyss and its then groundbreaking CGI, and then the CGI of 1993's Jurassic Park. It's also the debut of Minnie Mouse, and it also features Pete, who goes clear back to Disney's Alice comedies and went through multiple transformations which had him transition through multiple species, but by this time under Disney they finalized his cat form. I recommend Dave Lee Down Under's video about his history and evolution. The link is in the description below. But Steamboat Willie is not the only 1928 Mickey Mouse cartoon, and thus not the only Mickey Mouse cartoon now in public domain. In fact, Plane Crazy was produced before Steamboat Willie, while Disney just decided to make it his second Mickey release. And knowing that makes sense as to why he looks so different here, and why the Steamboat Willie design lasted so long. Oh, and one more Mickey short. The Galloping Gaucho, with a Wild West spin on Mickey, where his noble steed is an ostrich. But what is also interesting is how these cartoons give you an idea of how Mickey evolved as a character. Here he's nothing like the lovable, sweet Mickey we know today. He's pretty mean and mischievous. And I'm not ready to say it's the only time Disney had him doing this. Now, for quite some time, I felt like I was walking on eggshells over going into depth over this, just over the fact that Disney multiple times between 1976 and 1998 lobbied for a pushback on when a piece of media goes into public domain, and this before seeking to make that concession for this time around. And there was all kinds of talk over the possibility of Disney finding a sudden legal loophole this time around, and there have been a lot of statements by legal experts that have declared in no uncertain terms that Steamboat Willie is unequivocally in the public domain. I'll leave the link to the YouTube video where that was covered on CBS National News in the description below. But in simple terms, nobody needs licensing or permission from Disney to air those three cartoons, and anybody can make their own video production of Mickey Mouse strictly by using these two iterations. And in the same tradition of making a Winnie the Pooh horror movie, after he went into public domain, a Steamboat Willie horror film trailer has just been released, all in hopes of reaching the cynical audience or those chomping at the bit to jab at Disney for all that lobbying for extended protection over the years for these properties. And there has been talk that Disney used the opening sequence taken from Steamboat Willie to create a protected trademark to serve as a back-end protection of this property. But I got this from Duke Law Professor Jennifer Jenkins. The link to that is also in the description. In a unanimous opinion, the Supreme Court made clear that trademarks cannot be used to make an end run around copyright law because this would create a species of mutant copyright law that limits the public's federal right to copy and to use expired copyrights. In other words, trademark rights cannot be used to block the freedoms that the expiration of copyright allows, such as using a public domain character in a new creative work. Now, after the floodgates opened of people using this cartoon to their pleasure, largely on YouTube, some of them got copyright claims, copyright strikes, or completely pulled altogether. And based on what I've been reading up on, it looks to be a matter of the smoke needing to clear. And now, I'm no lawyer, so I can't definitively state that, but everything I've read lately said that's up for the aforementioned uses. But enough on Mickey Mouse.
Since I love talking about the superhero realm, I'll take advantage of a new entry of the public domain property that helped inspire a much beloved comic book character, the Joker, at least by the consensus of analysts. Of course, The Man Who Laughs depicts the Joker's inspiration, Gwynplaine, as the hero in the story, as a man who, as a boy, had his face rendered into a permanent smile as a penalty for his father's crimes. Actor Conrad Veidt does a good job of keeping the prosthetics that hold his mouth in place while effectively emoting with his eyes. And you can't help but root for the guy to prevail in the end. As previously mentioned, Gwynplaine being the inspiration for the Joker is the consensus. This because there are differing claims among the late creators of Batman, Bob Kane, Bill Finger, and Jerry Robinson, of what the inspiration actually was. An easy Google will tell that story, and otherwise I would have to make a whole other video about this subject matter. Now, I'm not oblivious to the fact that, especially with the Steamboat Willie news, there are scores of the YouTube videos talking about the new additions to the public domain. They've been talking about the aforementioned shows, which I wanted to give my 2 cents on. The others getting mentioned the most are The Passion of Joan of Arc, the Charlie Chaplin movie Circus, Lights of New York, the first true blue talkie, Noah's Ark, and The Hangman's House, both of which had a young Marion Morrison, not yet John Wayne, as an extra. Don't look for him in Noah's Ark.
But I choose to break away from the usual and talk into depth about this, The Viking.
Based on the novel The Thrall of Leif the Lucky, the subject matter makes it fun, but it's a real eye-opener watching this, seeing how technologies bringing sound and color to film were overlapping. This was the year after The Jazz Singer came out, which only had select scenes using sound, but it was going to take about a year to make sound a mainstream thing. But this was also the time of the beginnings of Technicolor. It was a real adjustment watching this with a subconscious paradigm of expecting sound to go with this kind of vivid color. But beyond that, it's a fun movie, perhaps the Braveheart of its day, though I had to look past the now infamous Viking inaccuracy of horn helmets, an epiphany I first experienced in my college Scandinavian history class years back. The movie depicts Leif Erikson and his father Eric the Red. It also features the then young movie trope of a love triangle, and since this was an historical era when Vikings were converting to Christianity, there is a bit of an overt Christian propaganda here. But for its time, this is a fun adventure movie.
And because their public domain status is out now, these are all readily available on YouTube. That's my insight on the new arrivals to the world of public domain. Thanks for watching. Agree, disagree, or something I left out, please let me know in the comment section. I'll keep saying it. Let's all look for civility amid all the bad news out there about social and political strife. Let's not hate, and let's find friends wherever we may go. Everyone be safe, and God bless.